Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the SEO Mindset podcast, where your hosts are myself, Sarah McDowell, and the absolutely fabulous Tazmin Suleman. So this week we are talking about journaling. So it's quite trendy now. Like, I'm definitely seeing more people talking about journaling or reasons why you should. So, we're getting in on that trend. We're talking about it. We discuss what it is, why it's important, and we also tell you how to do it as well. Because, for me personally, I've been very aware of journaling and that I should do it, but I was always a bit, how do you even do it? Where do you even start? So it was a really good conversation with Tazmin. Before we crack on with the episode, just want to remind you of how you can support the podcast. And I just want to start. So Tazmin has actually put together a prompt today e-journal. Yeah. So basically you have loads of prompts that you can use 365 days a year to help you with your journaling. So what we'll do is we'll pop a link in the show notes so you can find that. And so that's Tazmin, how you can support the SEO Mindset podcast. We are on Buy Me a Coffee, so you can give us a one-off donation and we'll be very much appreciative of that. And we share... Sorry, my brain. Help us share the word, spread the SEO Mindset podcast with other people, get people aware of us, because, that will help with our growth. Just go and check out the show notes. Everything is in there. And that is it. That's the admin done. Let's crack on with this week's episode. Hello, Tazmin.
Hello, Sarah.
So, obviously, recording in Lyrebird Studios.
Yep.
In Worcester.
Yep.
You've come all the way from Milton Keynes.
Via Birmingham.
But two things that I would like to tell our audience. So, we are standing.
Yes,
we are standing up. So, I wonder if people can tell. Are our voices more energised?
Well, I don't know. How are we going to find out?
I don't know.
I'm feeling actually, I think I prefer standing, because we recorded last time when we were all sitting and it just felt a bit, this feels freer.
Yeah, I mean, I am a bit of a mover. I mean, in previous episodes I've fallen over, haven't I? And I
did ask Sarah if I kept walking on the spot. Did that mean I did my steps for the day? But I don't think it does.
Could do. You know what I should invest in? Those desks that have a conveyor belt or a running machine underneath it. That's what we should do. Yeah. And also what I'd like to share with our audience is... So this is our fourth episode, doing some batch recording. Yeah. And I noticed that there was a button that was switched on, and I switched it off, and as soon as I did that, Taz was like, "Oh, I can hear."
She's so mean. So I recorded 3 without being able to hear properly.
To be fair, you didn't tell me.
I knew no different.
But I got a bit worried because I was like, I don't know what that button does. Now I know what that button does, and it's fine. The audio has been recorded, but it just meant that my microphone was soloed, so you could hear us but you couldn't hear you.
For any listeners who have tuned in for some serious conversation about career development, I'm so sorry. We will get onto the topic very quickly.
Okay, go on then.
Right, we're going to be talking about journaling. Now, Sarah, do you journal?
I have tried. So I haven't not done it, but I don't regularly do it.
Okay.
So I have, because I'm all on board. I understand I understand what it does, why you should do it. But I suppose, I don't know, maybe I need a bit more guidance.
Perhaps. So the reason why I wanted to record an episode on journaling is because last season we talked a lot about leadership and getting into those sorts of positions and the importance of self-awareness. Even the episode with Alice, again, it was talking about knowing yourself. The thing is, how do you get to know yourself? And journaling, that was the beginning of my journaling journey. So I would say I started about 17 years ago. It was at the end of the divorce, and somebody had suggested that I started using the process of journaling, which is basically just writing down your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences, and what's happening in life on paper. And that was supposed to help me in that journey, and it absolutely did, although I was very skeptical at the beginning. So I remember going to Paper Chase, as it was then, and buying a really beautiful I would say almost like a mulberry coloured book. And the first time I journaled was on a return trip from my sister, and it was about the whole divorce process. And then it became more about journaling every evening. So the kids would go to bed and I would start writing about how the day went, what had happened, what was good, what was not good. And it and just becoming really curious about myself. But it so helped in working out what my triggers were, what my strengths were, how I wanted to improve, which is so important in a journey of any growth that you want in your life. So that's why I thought it'd be a good episode to talk about this. And also, I've noticed recently it's become a bit more trendy. I don't know if you've noticed it, but a lot of the YouTube videos about entrepreneurs or influencers who are making, really great successes of their lives are talking more and more about the power of things like, the woo-woo topics like meditation and visualization, and they're talking about journaling. And a lot of people who are doing really well are talking about it. So it's becoming less of, I don't know if it was ever a taboo subject, but it seemed more of a softer subject, and now it's becoming quite pronounced.
Yeah, or I suppose, because I don't think less so taboo, but it was just more, I think it's getting more awareness, and it's like people are, because I see, and I don't know whether, because it all depends on who you follow and what comes up in your social media feed, but I definitely see people talking about journaling, why they do journaling tips and all of that. So yeah, maybe it's just people are getting more aware of it, like people are seeing the advantages and what comes of it. So yeah, like, and definitely it's funny, isn't it, when things become trendy and like topics and stuff. And I suppose it is good that journaling has become trendy, because it's a good thing to be trendy.
Yep. So, it is becoming more widespread. It does have huge benefits, and we've talked about the benefits of self-awareness. It also gives you a lot of clarity. Why do, if you think back at school, we would be told, go and learn about that topic and write an essay on it. And back in the day when there were libraries and no internet, yes, I am that old, I'd trundle down to the library and get 4 books on osmosis or whatever it was I was writing about. And then you read all of those and you figure it out in your head, and then you process it and you write it into an essay. That act of absorbing information, clarifying it in your head, and then writing it down is so powerful. And if you can do that in your life, think of how much more insight you'll have.
Definitely. And yeah, I suppose it's like, it's a habit, isn't it, of doing it more, because I know the advantages and I know that I should do it, but I always give myself an excuse not to do it. Or
interesting.
Or it's like, or I feel like there's something else that I could be doing. Like, I don't know, watching Netflix. Not great. You understand? Journaling is better. Maybe it's a house chore. Maybe it's taking Benny the dog out. Maybe it's playing Wordle on my phone. So I think I always give excuses of not doing it. But yeah, because it doesn't even have to take long, does it?
No. And I think you use the word habit. If you replace the word with practice, it takes some of the pressure off. When it's a habit, you feel that it's got to be in a certain way and it must be done. But if you're practicing, you're having a go. I think it's a bit like meditation. People think, oh, I'm no good at it. Well, just practice. Don't worry about being good at it. The idea is you learn something from it. And the other thing, when you were talking about there's other things to do, if you think about the return on investment that you get. So if it is watching Netflix, ask yourself, what is the return on my time investment? If it is doing another chore, ask yourself, what is the time investment and return on your investment, and also with journaling. So if journaling is, and it very likely will be, makes you feel more grateful for the day, irons out any niggles that you've had in the day, helps you learn something about yourself, that is a practice that is going to move you on in life.
Yes.
Whereas the other things that you mentioned are more like hamster wheel tasks.
There's nothing, I suppose, there's not a disadvantage to journaling. Do you know what I mean? It's all positives. So why wouldn't you do it?
I mean, I think my husband might say that she does it too much, because the other day he said, are you reading? I said, no, I'm writing. He said, oh yeah, you're writing. Maybe I heard that in his voice. But I think sometimes too much self-reflection and not enough action also becomes a form of procrastination. But it is, by and large, it's really, really useful for you to understand yourself, understand where you want to improve, and helps you move your life in a way that is more aligned with your true self.
And that is the goal, isn't it? Get into your true self and self-awareness. And actually, so it's the other way round in my partnership with me and Tash, because Tash is a journaler. Like, if she's had a tough day, if there's something that she's struggling with, sometimes she just does it just because, like, not necessarily something bad's happened, so she has to journal. She finds it really therapeutic and really helps her. So as I'm there doing Wordle or like some sort of quiz, she's there journaling, and it helps her. And it's anything that's in your brain that you can just get out on the paper, I'm all for. But I suppose for me, I don't know, I think part of it as well is because I have so much going on. I've got all these different projects. Like, I'm always busy. I'm always working towards something, that when I've got time to journal, because I'm so exhausted, that's when Netflix comes on, or that's when, like, something that is easy to do. And I think I'm being very transparent and open right now, and that needs to change, because that is how I'm living right now isn't sustainable. Like, it's going to lead to burnout. Like, I can't just keep go, and then, like, as soon as I stop, I'm exhausted, so I fall asleep. Or because even when we put Netflix on, I'm always falling asleep anyway, and Tash is always looking at me like, are you asleep again? And I'm like, no. So yeah.
So somebody like you with lots of things going on is an ideal situation where actually journaling is going to be hugely beneficial, because one of the things I ask myself in my journal every evening is, what's the next best step for me in the business? Because you can't do all of it. And that's actually good, because then I get to pick the thing that's going to make the most return. Sometimes I'll ask myself, the things that I've done this week, have they actually moved me on? Have they been a good return of investment? One question I ask myself, I've started asking this more recently, and I'm not doing it every day, but I think it would be good if I did. If I had today repeated every day for a year, would I be where I wanted to be, and who would I be who I wanted to be?
That's a really lovely question.
It's not mine. I got it off the internet. I think his name is Nicholas Cole. He's a writer. But asking you that question, the days that you've got right now, if you had those days every day for 100, well, not 100 days, for a whole year, would you be where you wanted to be and who you wanted to be? And it sounds like you'd be burnt out. So then the question is, okay, the things that I'm doing, what actually is it giving me? Yeah. Is it moving my business on? Is it actually taking me away from what I really want to do?
Yeah, and then it's the letting go. But yeah, anyway, I don't want to derail this conversation. We are due to go for a short break. Is there anything else that you want to address before we do that?
Not so much address, but another advantage is so many books have been written through the process of journaling. So there was a book on cancer, and it was a doctor who was journaling about each of the cases, and then he found certain commonalities through those cases and wrote a book. And somebody asked him, why did you write this book? He said, I never set out to write it. All I was doing was journaling. So it has, and your brain is not supposed to store information. If I gave you a really complicated maths question, you would say, let me get a piece of paper and write it down, and to help you figure it out. It's the same with everything else that's going in your head. By taking it out on a piece of paper, you can start figuring it out.
Ah, yeah. Wow. You sold it to me, Tazmin. I mean, I didn't come into this being like, it's a waste of time, I don't want to do it. But yeah, the more I talk about it and see the benefits, and it's just one of those things, isn't it? You just got to implement it. Right. Shall we take a short break? I don't know why I did that very whispery.
And I whispered even, yes, Sarah, we should take a small break.
Did you enjoy that short break?
I did. Had a swig of water.
Yeah. Water is important.
Absolutely.
Hydration, H2O, and all of that good stuff. So, part one, we talked about journaling. We talked about the benefits. I basically realised that I just need to stop, with the excuses and just do it. So, does it make sense to talk about how we journal?
Let's do that.
Because actually, I think sometimes when I don't really know how to do something, I get scared and I don't do it.
Oh.
And also, I think about journaling wrong, because there doesn't necessarily have to be an end goal. But anyway, you kick us off.
Okay, so what are the rules of journaling? Would you like to know, Sarah?
There's rules?
Would you like to know what
How
the rules
many
are?
rules are there?
There are no rules. The rules of journaling are there are no rules, except one, that you are honest with yourself.
Okay, that's an okay rule. I can get on board with that.
So, when should you journal? Whenever you want. How often should you journal? How often you want. But so if I just talk about how I journal, and then you can interject with your thoughts on it. So I started journaling, and it would be at the end of the day, and there would be standard questions like, what am I grateful for today? And what was I proud of? What did I learn? And one thing that really helped me was, what didn't go well today that I wish I had done something different with? And that helped me, because then this might surprise you. I had a real big anger problem when I started journaling. One of the first entries was, I'm always angry, I don't like who I've become, and I'm always shouting at the children. And that's not who I want to be. So by doing that, then in the evening, if something had happened with the children, I would say, today this happened. And when you know that you've done something wrong and it doesn't feel nice, and you go to bed with that horrible feeling in the pit of your stomach, what journaling enabled me to do was to lessen that. It doesn't mean that I removed it completely, but I would say to myself, next time this happens, I will do this, this, and this. And what it does is that when you go to sleep, all of that all of whatever's happened in your day is being processed and going into your subconscious, and you've got a way of rewriting that story for yourself. So it goes into your mind. Plus you have rewritten the script for yourself in black and white or blue or whatever color you're using. So next time that happens, you already have another script. Now, it doesn't mean that I automatically the next morning woke up as some, wonderful, well-rounded individual. It took time, but the process of journaling helped. So mine journaling was more in the evening. Then, over the years, I now journal whenever I want. So anytime that something is not sitting well with me in my head or I can't quite figure it out, I will scribble about it. But a practice that I have begun to do more recently is morning journaling. So it is asking my questions of, what am I really excited about today? Who do I want to be today? I even have end of day journaling, like what am I going to do tomorrow? I ask myself questions like the one I mentioned before. What is a bottleneck in my business and why am I not working on it? Usually it's me. And then I've got to go and journal some more stuff. So it's any time that you're not sure of what the solution is, write it right through the process.
So just to quickly interject on this, so suppose if you're going from someone who's not journaling to wanting to journal, maybe it makes sense to fit it into your schedule at first. And I don't know, like I like to plan my day and have things that happen at certain points. So maybe I'm like, okay, I will put time aside. I've got this time that I can journal. So while I'm getting used to doing the journaling, that is going to be my time that I've put aside for that. And then once you get more familiar and once you get more into, we're not calling it a habit?
A practice.
A way
of life.
Once you get into the practice of doing it, I suppose that's when you'll end up doing it more when you need it, or you'll just do it as and when, or maybe you're like, actually, I quite like it regimented and I'm going to then add in another time. So I suppose it's about finding out what works well for you. Yeah. But getting used to doing it, get used to that practice of journaling.
Yeah. So I would suggest to people who've never tried it before, have a go at one prompt, and it can be the same prompt every evening. And it's, it takes a minute.
So what do you mean by prompt?
So you can either freestyle journaling, where you are just writing. And that's a really good way of getting rid of a lot of gunk from your brain. So some people wake up in the morning and they write what is termed as free pages. They'll scribble, write, and then they might even throw those pages away. It's just to clear your mind. But a prompt is a question like, what are you grateful for today? What did you learn about yourself today? Those sorts of questions that if you go to a coach, for example, or a therapist, they may ask you.
Okay.
So it is the whole, do I freestyle write versus prompts?
So arguably, if you're first starting, maybe prompts will help you, because when you're first looking and like, oh my gosh, I need to journal, I need to put something down, like your brain's going to be like, ah. So I think a prompt would be a good start, I think.
Yeah. And then the other question is, how often set it for once in the day? It could be a morning prompt. Who do I want to be today? So if, for example, you've got a really big meeting and you want to be assertive or you want to feel confident, you can then say, today I am confident. I'm confident in what I've done, in the work I have put in preparation for this meeting, and I'm going to go in and smash this. So you're setting yourself up for the day.
Yeah.
Or in the evening. Those are probably the two best times to start off.
Yeah.
And then the other is what sort of. So we've talked about prompts. We've talked about just lined paper. Other people use these things called bullet journals. Have you seen those? They're mad. I tried to do one and it was just all too much for me. So it's a book of paper with dots, and then you join up those dots depending on what you want to put on that paper. So you create boxes, you create lines, you can decorate. I mean, I just couldn't. It was too much. But I think maybe I'm just not very artistic. And
well, I suppose if so straight away what I'm thinking there is if you're a bit of a doodler, that would be really good for you, because it gives you a bit more freedom, because I suppose some people might feel a bit limited with journaling in just words. So if there is like something where they can be a bit more creative and what do they call it? A spider diagram. So where you keep going out and out sort of thing. Yeah, I can definitely see how that would help some people.
Yeah. And also if you want to then have draw pictures in it, some people, will doodle, some people will actually be really artistic, and it becomes more of an expression through visual than words. So for that reason, bullet journals are great. Customizing it, so you may want to set out your yearly plan in a certain way. A lot of people do that. Another way to, another question to ask yourself is, do you want pen and paper or do you want it electronic? So there are e-journals available. There are subscriptions that you can sign up to where they send you a prompt every day or every week. So there's all sorts of different ways that you can get into this practice. It all depends on, give it a go. Just give it a go and see how it feels.
Yeah, definitely. Give yourself some creative freedom, I suppose is what we're saying.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it definitely. So, I suppose at the beginning of this episode, journaling kind of felt a bit overwhelming and another thing that you should be doing in your self-care, another thing that you need to be adding. But actually, it is about like getting used to doing it. And yeah, like while you're doing it for the first time, just give yourself that time to get used to what you're doing, what you're putting in. And I suppose there's no right or wrong. There's nothing that you shouldn't be putting in that journal, because this is private, isn't it? Like It's not like you're going to share this with other people.
Yeah. And for that reason, some people like to use it for their well-being. You said that it's another thing that you need to do for your self-care, but actually doing it is part of your self-care. Stress management, well-being, you can jot all of that down. Another thing is, it's a really great way of documenting your life, because if I ask somebody at the end of the year that, okay, what did you do this year? They'll have to go into their brains, try and remember what they've done. They might open up their calendar and look at all of the meetings that they had or trips. But if you have your own journal, that's your stamp of the whole year. And it's really great we're coming up to the end of the year and people are going to be thinking about their 2025 goals of what do I want for the next year. But this gives you a documentation of what was good for you, what wasn't good for you, and then you can then form your goals based on that.
I think that's a really lovely point, because straight away what I'm thinking is you can make yourself a cuppa, sit in somewhere that's really comfy, cozy, in a really lovely setting. You can sit down and you can just have a flick through. It's like reading a book, yeah, but you're reading a book on your own life, and you might surprise yourself of the things that you've done, and it's all about, we bang on about self-awareness, don't we? We bang on about getting to know you, getting to know what makes you tick and all of this lovely stuff. So yeah, journaling is an insight into that. So I suppose you'd probably need some system of keeping things organized. So maybe have a book for, I suppose it depends, doesn't it?
It depends. And this is something that I haven't nailed. So when I started, it was just one book. And then it was, do I need a separate journal for my personal life and then my professional life? And do I need a separate book for my business rambling? And now I've just gone back to one because I had lots and it was annoying. But One thing that I did was it at the beginning of this year or the end of last year? I had a journaling workshop at my house.
Yes.
That was really fun. And if it's something that you're enjoying doing, you can get a few friends together, you can share. You don't have to read each other's journals, but just shared experiences, lovely.
So straight away, you have book club, you can have journal club.
Yeah.
So I love that idea. I suppose I'm just thinking, like I always like a processor in my head. I'm just thinking if I want to reflect and I want to know what happened, but you don't have to overthink it, do you? You could just start with a diary or a notebook, and then put your what day it is, for example, and then when you fill up that book, just have a way of like, okay, post-it note maybe, like this is January to February 2024, for example, and then I'm just thinking of a way to keep it archived, or just do whatever's right for you, I suppose.
What I would suggest is buy a beautiful book to journal in.
Yeah.
Maybe that's more important to me than maybe another person, but I get these random diaries from my husband, who gets them from all sorts of suppliers, and I don't want it for that reason. I don't want to write my thoughts in this. I want a beautiful, beautiful book. And it's been solved now because one of my birthdays, my husband gave me one of those leather-bound books, but you can insert a blank book inside, so it's just like a cover. So it's got my initials on it. So now I'm sorted.
I do. Tash loves buying a new notebook.
Yeah.
A new, like her, when she's needing a new notebook, something to write in for journaling. When we go to the shops or when she's looking online, I can see the pure joy. Yeah. Like picking, this is a really beautiful book, I'm going to want to write in it and stuff. And maybe get yourself a special pen. I'm straight away thinking I have a special pen because my dad very randomly did a pen making workshop.
Oh
yeah. And I got a fancy pen.
Very nice.
Out of it. So I've got my fancy pen. I just need to go and get myself a fancy notebook and start journaling. Now, looking at the time, Tazmin, it is tickering away.
Wow.
Tick-tock. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you want to discuss?
I just want to say that journaling is meant to make things better for you. So find a way that works for you. Don't give yourself that pressure that it has to be every day and must be this question. Don't make it
a chore.
Yeah, just make it fun, flowing, and just go with that.
I mean, something that I'm thinking of is once I've got my nice notebook, just have it somewhere visible.
Yeah.
And then when, I don't know, when I'm in the mood or when I want to do something, just pick it up and write in it. But this is about your self-awareness, but also self-help.
Yes.
So it like you say, it shouldn't come as a chore or like, oh my gosh, I've got this thing to do. Like change your mindset, and like this is just as fun as it is watching Netflix or doing the Wordle. So I'm really into my Wordle, as you can probably tell at the moment. So yes, wonderful stuff. Right. Shall we? Well, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm doing a little jig on the spot. So thank you very much for that episode, Tazmin.
Very welcome.
That's been very helpful. Reminder of what you can do to support if you fancy it and you want to help us out. You can give us a one-off donation, can't you? We are set up on Buy Me a Coffee.
Very appreciated.
Yes, and lots of people have already done that so far, so thank you. So if you fancy giving us a little one-off donation, there's a link in the show notes. Do you want to give another way, Tazmin?
And share the podcast far and wide, because although this is the SEO Mindset podcast, clearly, from the topic today, journaling is relevant to so many people. So share with anybody that you think this topic will resonate with.
There you go. And also, Christmas is coming up. I know I'm talking about Christmas in September, but treat yourself or treat a loved one or a friend to a glorious notebook.
Yeah.
There you go.
Or yourself.
Or yourself. Right. Shall we say goodbye, take care of yourself, and until next time, Tazmin?
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.